Spoken Labour. I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Kent Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken Label.
Hi, it's Andy N from Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up at the beginning of 2016, and records show it started off really as a one-off podcast chatting to writers, poets and artists. Over time, it became monthly, then weekly, and occasionally nowadays it goes on back to a more regular basis. To date, I've done over 330 sessions, and I'm always looking for new poets, writers, artists, singer-songwriters, general interesting creative people to come onto the podcast. You can find this on all the usual networks over Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, Podbay, and dozens of others. But it does have a central database of Spoken Label, which is all one word, .bandcamp.com. Obviously now, to help me with the running costs of this podcast, I'm always grateful for any kind of donation to assist me with it. You can either do the donation through the Bandcamp page by putting in a fee to download one of the free podcasts, or send it over to my PayPal to aen1mpo@yahoo.co.uk. My email address again is aen1mpo@yahoo.co.uk. Enjoy the podcast. Take care. Bye.
Spoken Label.
Hi guys, Andy Ed, Spoken Label, back in the house on a Sunday afternoon, and it's really, really hot today. Really, really clammy. But we're not travelling very far, so we're over to my favourite neck of the woods today, because I grew up a lot around this area and lived around a bit as well as born and bred in Stretford. And we're talking to a poet today, of course, who I've known from the beginning of this year. I met him at Speakeasy, and he's a wonderful gentleman. And he's also a bloody good poet as well. He's one of these people where I've met him about 5 months ago, and his confidence, you can see it in people, and he's grown and grown and grown. He's a great writer now. We've got the fantastic Tom Butterworth with us today. Tom, yeah, two of you told me already, you're originally from the Rochdale area, but you've been around a bit, haven't you? So tell us a little about yourself as a background, and we'll start from there, basically, mate.
Yeah, grew up in Rochdale, so I was living there till I was about 18, then went to uni, so I was back and forth a bit, went to York Uni, and then stayed in Rochdale, so I was probably about 21 off and on. Then spent a little bit in Sheffield, and then now I'm down in South Manchester in Cholton.
Yeah. It's obviously like we'll keep off the personal stuff, but I was going to ask how you relate to meet with your families. I know it is already in Cholton, but tell us obviously. I know you do teaching, don't you, as the day job? So has this been involved with your writing really? Because
well, I used to actually. I started with teaching. I taught English at a high school for a year. Just doing it as an unqualified teacher, so I was doing a teacher training thing called Teach First. But it's very intense, very because you're training on the job with that. So I was like having to do my PGCE while also teaching full time, and also the way high school kind of English works, it's not really good for the kids. It's not really like set up for the kids who struggle. So I didn't really feel like I was getting anywhere with them. Like trying to teach kids who couldn't really speak English, like they just come from a refugee camp and that sort of thing. And I'm trying to teach them how to analyse Shakespeare. And it was just like, what's the point?
I think the saying is straight over their heads, basically, isn't it? So,
So I just felt like I was just letting them down, really. But I actually I ran a gardening group with some of the little kids, like the year sevens.
Oh yeah.
I think it was at lunchtime, no, just after school. And that was like one of the best parts of it. It was like really cute and they really loved it. And then I sort of started thinking about, because I kind of like done a little bit of gardening and stuff, just like as a hobby kind of thing. And I've always been interested in the environment and, you know, worried about climate change and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's one of the themes,
that.
and what's one of the themes that comes up in a lot of your poetry. I was going to ask you about that actually later. So yeah,
yeah. So, but now I'm actually teaching. So I did gardening, my own gardening business for about 6 years.
Oh, whoa.
So that was 2016. I was a teacher. So and then when I left that, I went and just was kind of at a loose end. So I just did self-employed gardening for ages, and I've done kind of bits and bobs of other stuff. But always kind of thinking of wildlife friendly gardening. But then, yeah, in the last, end of 2021, I started, got a job as a horticulture teacher. So that was adult education. And that's what I'm doing up until today.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. You know, you've gone things in a very roundabout way in some ways, haven't you? So I think it's like everything's probably like you're two different friends, different directions, you're going to all come together then, really, haven't they? So I know you've been writing for quite some time, haven't you, still? Because I know when I first met you, Speakeasy wasn't your first night you'd read at, was it? I mean, you told me you read in Sheffield. Was I right? That's what I imagining things.
No, I wrote some stuff while I was living in Sheffield, but
that was it, yeah.
Yeah, the first time I read, it was actually at the first time I read was at Dulcimer, but it was an open night, just a general open night, like music as well and spoken word, and so I just read something there. That would have been probably 2019 or something. And then I also did a kind of, Jam Street.
Yes, that's over in Whalley Range way, isn't it? Yeah. I know. Was that Tony Curry that used to run that? Was it? If it was Tony Knight, wasn't it? I don't know. I'm imagining things. Might be Chris Jam actually. Might be Chris Jam.
I just went there once. It was like not long before lockdown, so I just went there and it was a really good environment there. They do like, it's not a poetry thing. They do like music and everyone can kind of come along and start joining in. People do raps and stuff. So I just did a bit of my poetry over some of the music that they were playing.
Oh, cool.
But, yeah, then I hadn't really done anything for about 3 years as far as live reading until I came along to Speakeasy.
Yeah, and we kind of sucked you in then, didn't we? We're never gonna let you go now. So
I never knew there was a kind of whole poetry scene really. With you meet same people keep coming back, and there's lots of new people in there. And I never kind of knew that was a thing.
Yeah, I don't think unless you stumble into it sometimes, you don't find out. It was like I stumbled into a long time ago. Anyway, it's the best way to put it to you. But I probably wasn't much older than yourself actually. And it's like, what I'm trying to do at Speakeasy, and you're a great example of this, I think, actually, is we're always trying to encourage new people to come along constantly. And then some people will come back, some will go on to other nights. And it's that's what I think the purpose is, to keep encouraging people to be creative in what they want to do. That's why. And I think when you get it, it never lets you go. That's why. But honestly, like I said before about your poetry, what I really liked about it was obviously two themes that come up in it quite regularly for me. Is I know you write a lot about philosophy, don't you, straight away? So, and also we've got the green element of your work as well. So, but talk about your philosophy first of all. Then that might be easier, and we'll go into the green stuff afterwards.
I mean, I've always been interested in science since I was a kid. My dad was a bit obsessed with it. He's not like any sort of scientist or any background or anything, but he kind of just taught himself by reading about stuff. And then he liked to teach me about things when I was a kid, and I found it very exciting. I always wanted to be an inventor or an astronaut or something like that.
Did you really? Oh, wow.
when I was like 8 or 9,
Oh, wow.
So I've always been interested, and I do love science. I never studied it myself. Not well. I did like up to A-level biology, but I found the maths is a bit much for me. When you get into physics and all that, it's very mathsy, and that kind of put me off. But I love science, and I kind of... it's really, I started finding the beauty in nature and kind of linking it to science, because I'm not a religious person, but I think I do have a bit of a kind of spiritual feeling to some of my stuff, kind of in a sort of secular way, like a kind of, really looking at the beauty of nature and the universe and thinking about, I mean, I've got so many poems about like the beginning of the universe, the end of the universe, the end of the year.
I've heard you read a couple of them definitely before now. And they are, yeah, you are. It's your work is very, very. It's interesting really because you really are a deep thinker of your work, and I think the more I've got to know you over the last 5-6 months, I've definitely seen it more and more and more. You go on stages you're always a very, very thoughtful writer. And do you think your writing has changed much since you first started performing regularly with us?
Some of the newer ones, I've not written. I don't write that prolifically, but like I kind of just occasionally sort of one pops into my head. I've done a couple though since then, and I think it has kind of some of the stuff I've heard from the other poets has been great, and it's definitely inspired me to sort of think about how I can write, because like usually it'd be completely random when I write a poem. Like I'd be sort of at a gig or something, and I'd just start writing, or I'd be like, and usually I'll do it in one sitting. So I just like I'm at a gig and I'll write the poem there, or I'll like be wandering about at night or something, and I'll just write it. So it's just random points. Whereas I've never just sort of thought, oh, I'll write a poem now, and then I kind of sit down and do it. Whereas, since coming to Speakeasy a few times, I thought, well, I should see if I can just do that and like actually just sit down and say if I can write a poem without having to just wait for some inspiration to kind of pop into my head, kind of thing.
Yeah, so, I think it's often the way it goes. That sometimes, I think it's when you're in a creative atmosphere. I think it seems to spark something off in your brain a lot. Sometimes it does. I always remember Amanda saying that when the first few times we took her down Speakeasy. And somebody went on the stage and read out a 5-minute monologue about losing their granddad fairly recently. And Amanda, at that point, had just lost a family member herself, and it seemed to help her deal with it that way. And I think it does, doesn't it, really, sometimes where you get in that creative atmosphere, it lets you realise just what you can actually write about, definitely with that. So, yeah. Now, the other topic I want to talk about is your love of your belief in eco stuff. And also, you've definitely read out a couple of poems of the green side of things as well. Yeah. So tell us about your interest in the eco then, or the green, is what I should say.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of obsessed with plants. So obviously, being horticulture teacher, it's kind of grown over the period where I've been. I kind of was anyway, because obviously I think about plants being so good for for wildlife and everything, and it's all part of the ecosystem and fighting climate change and all that. So I kind of always knew that they were very important and stuff. But then after being, I did a horticulture course as well, level 2 RHS thing 6 years ago when I first started gardening. And I've just become more and more obsessed with plants, basically. So yeah, that does come into some of my poems. And sometimes, a lot of the time, kind of juxtaposing like nature with humanity and kind of how the two kind of clash with each other, I guess. And also using plants and nature as a symbol in a lot of my stuff as well.
Yeah. What I also interested to learn about you as well, Tom, is obviously I'm not going to go into too much detail like your personal stuff, but people will know obviously you live in a very, very busy household, to put it nicely, don't you? So how do you actually plan then to do all your writing? Do you actually like just try and disappear for an hour so if someone pops in your head, or are you like an early morning writer?
Yeah, like I say, it's kind of the last couple I wrote, I'll try and find a quiet moment, maybe after the baby's gone to sleep or something. And yeah, that last one I wrote was a bit like that. Or it might just be literally like I'll sort of spend a few minutes. I usually tend to do it on my phone because then I can just do it anywhere. I never do anything on paper really. I think there's like one or two that I've done on paper.
So same for me, because all mine's done nowadays is on a tablet. I've been writing, and then it gets transferred into a computer. Amanda's like you; she writes just on the mobile, and I'm too short-sighted to do it on my phone. To put it bluntly, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward to do it on a phone, but I find because it's usually, like I say, it's just kind of at a random moment. I'll think, oh, that's a good line or something, and then I'll have to get it down then because I can't hold them in my head for any length of time really. I'll think of a good line and I'm like, right, got to get that down next time I got a chance, and then by the time I come to it, it's gone. I'm sure I've lost quite a few poems that way.
Yeah, I think we all have a little piece of some way. I know what you mean. I'm one of these sort of writers when I'll try and do it during the day at reasonable hour. Thankfully, my brain doesn't. I don't wake up during the night now, having to write something down at 3 a.m. Because if I did, it'd be absolute gibberish. So I know what you mean there with that.
Well, actually, now you mentioned that, probably it is. I think it is at night that a lot of my stuff tends to come out. I mean, like I've said, it's often gigs and stuff when I'm sort of listening to music at a gig or just wandering about at night. I think I've said it when I was reading a couple at Speakeasy, how I wrote it like wandering around at like 2 a.m. or something. I did a lot of that. I've not really done much of that for quite a while, walking around at night, but I used to love that, which I think it's actually probably a response. When I was a teenager, I got attacked at night. When I was about 14, I got bottled by a couple of, nutters. And it really made me scared of going out for quite a while. I was like really terrified of going out at night for quite a while.
Would do, yeah. God.
Yeah, because I was like 14, so it was like really. But then, by the time I was like at uni and stuff, I started feeling a lot safer, and I actually then kind of went the opposite way. And I was just like, I'd look at the clock, oh, it's midnight, time for a walk, and I'd just go and like wander about the streets. I think partly because York is a really nice city. It's really great to walk around, and you do feel very safe there.
Yeah, I do like York. Do like York a lot around there.
Compared to walking around at Rochdale in the middle of the night, I mean, it's not too safe during the day, to be honest. So,
well, we won't obviously put any of our viewers off at listening to Rochdale. It's a lovely city, right?
I mean, I do love it, to be honest. I'm kind of, it's a bit of a love-hate relationship, but that's basically anyone from Rochdale kind of loves it and hates it. But those nighttime walks, definitely loads of stuff. And I often find my poems are kind of like quite fixed in a place. Like when I read the poem, I really remember where I was when I was writing it. And it's kind of like, I'm inspired by places that I'm walking through and this kind of thing.
Yeah, I get completely with it. Well, I think I love what your work as well as is when I ever hear it, it's the style of it might be changing, but it feels like most of the piece often gets wrote quite quickly for you as well, but your pacing of it, and it's, if you hear it, that's why. But do you like to go back and revise your pieces much after you've done them, or is it just there and then?
Yeah, I very rarely change them. So usually I'll just kind of put it down and then that's it, and I basically hardly touch it. Sometimes I might just tweak one or two things. So I did tweak one or two parts of something the last time I read just on Thursday, because I thought they kind of wouldn't make much sense. So there's one that I read that was about that one that was about having an argument with someone and you think you might lose them when you're in a relationship. And there was a line where it kind of wouldn't have really made any sense. So I kind of tweaked it so that it would make sense to someone just listening. But other than that, barely really a word here or there. But it's like on the paper and then it's done. And it's probably not great because I'm sure I could improve them, but I feel a bit precious about them.
I think you are, because it's like, I know I don't really write much poetry nowadays. I think you took that with me. I'm more on the flash fiction side or prose, but when I used to write poetry regular, it used to be some of the poems when they're on the piece of paper, they'd be looking at it and saying, "Don't you dare touch me! Don't you dare try and bend me!" Stuff like that. But everything. There's no set pattern of work, and I've had it interesting about like you've just started to now think about aren't you changing bits around every now and then. So I think it's a sign of where I think your work changing in different directions straight away with it. So, do you know yourself? And where would you like envisage your work to take you next? Then, do you have any ideas?
Well, I'm definitely. I love coming to Speakeasy. It's great to come and like talk to people a bit. I tend to be a bit shy in social situations. I kind of hope that someone will come and talk to me, which they have. People are really friendly. It's a really great community.
Yeah, that's what we try and be. Challenge. If people wonder, that's what we try and do. I try to anyway. You know what I'm like. So yeah, sorry, mate.
But they're getting out there doing more of the open mics and things, and I know some of the poets that they actually do a kind of headlining event kind of thing. But I would, and also I know lots of people publish things as well. So I've kind of got a vague idea of a collection in my head, which is kind of a lot of these apocalyptic kind of themed things and that sort of scientific sort of theme in there.
Yeah, yours has definitely got a science side of the science fiction side of it. That's definitely how putting it that. So yeah, I could definitely see that with you straight away. Oh, good luck, Mum. Definitely with it. So yeah, keeps informed of it. So what we'll do anyway, Tom, we'll wrap up this point anyway, mate. So I want to give you plenty of time to do a bit of reading of poems for us. I always ask this now, and obviously even though I know you're new to the scene at the minute, if people want to get hold of you to talk about, maybe book you in for slots and stuff, where do you recommend they go?
I do have someone at Speakeasy recommended that I try and use Instagram more because
you're not. I didn't know you're on that actually.
Yeah. I'm a bit of an old man, so I'm just on Facebook for my personal.
Well, if you're an old man, well, I don't know what I am. Right.
I've started vaguely using Instagram a bit more. I've hardly got any posts on there yet, but I think I'm poetry and plants on Instagram.
Let's have a look then. Let's have a look.
I think I've added you. You might have. I don't know.
I might have added you on these poetry.
So yeah, I suppose I'm on there. People can message me on there.
Let's just double check we're right then for this one here. I thought that way. That's why we can look at this hot off the presses. Oh yes, you are.
Poetry,
yeah, is it a little? Oh God, no, it can't be.
A little picture of a bee on a sunflower as my.
Oh no, that's not you. No, you're not 20-year-old. You're not living in Indiana, so that's definitely not you. Hang on, is it poets and was it and poetry. Is it poets? What, mate?
Poetry and plants.
Oh, poetry. I put poets and plants. Let's have a look. Yeah, we'll see if this is live off the press, guys. Yes, got it. There we are. Yeah. I'm now following you as well. So there, look at that thing. Hot off the presses indeed, mate. So, right, everybody, we'll wrap up part one here and we'll give Tom plenty of time to read a few poems. Appreciate it, mate. We shall see one, two shakes of the dice.
Spoken Label.
Hi, guys. And the end, Spoken Label. The amazing Tom Butterworth. Straight over to Tom. He's got 5 pieces for us today. Over to you, buddy. I'm looking forward to this.
Thanks. So this first one, this is one that I wrote. It was about 6 or 7 years ago, and I was wandering around at the middle of the night near the sort of industrial area near Piccadilly Station in Manchester, and I accidentally came across some sex workers who were hanging around trying to do their job, and they kind of beckoned to me, and I ran away, and it kind of made me think a bit about, I don't know, what sort of society's come to, I guess. It's called Part of Town. In the sleazy part of town, dark and grey and dingy, a hooker tries and fails to hook. A couple wants me to hook 'em. They look upon me whinging, but to it harsh tones are singing. When rot is hot and smut is good, and soot and slut ring, ring, ring. What Manchester is this? Could millers, mill owners forgive this, when human becomes but piss on a wall made up of his bricks? Grit is thick, thick layers on the ground. CCTV protects private land from interlopers who want to sit in weeds and ferns and dirt to find a world without sound. Hard fences too, no person round here will enter sound, for sharp spikes and words will soon them found. No spike river ford by hand, no brick quiver when I pound. The world around me closes in with thick and thin and evil din. Dark eyes glance at everyone with suspicion and superstition. Black flies drink rot from some, those with yet unforgiven traditions. A hopeless chorus sings for us while money ka-chings away from us, and hope I hope will stay for us while day and night grow grey for us. Should any soul dismay for us, remember what we pay for this. Remember that which bled and screamed and hurt and pained and dreamed of more. What cuts right through the seams for us is perfect as can be for us. Though perfect as an evergreen, such things do exist for me, and can for all of us curtail the dratted lies that life entails. Though life imperfect curses you, the world such punishment deserve you. For when hell is too little for you, what life is left for poetry.
Brilliant stuff. It's got a real. I liked, by the way, the sound of it where each of your lines you did there. Some very, very sharp sounds in that he did, and you can tell it wrote at night time straight away with that one. No, tremendous stuff, that one, mate. So what were you doing? You walk as you ran away from him, you stand there and some hidden corner start writing all that down, did you?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And when it says that someone tries to hook them, I kind of hid in a little doorway, and then some guys, or like a man and a woman, drove up to me in the car and were sort of thinking I was a sex worker as well.
Oh, that's a sequel piece that's begging to be wrote there. So anyway, we'll move on, mate. I'm going to embarrass yourself. Excellent stuff, mate. Okie dokie. Back to you for number 2, mate.
So this was written, I think, the following night. So wandering around the same, or roughly around the same area. And I was kind of thinking about, there's a lot of areas there where it's kind of wasteland, there's all rubble and litter and stuff, and it's all kind of overgrown, with all fences round it, sort of saying private land, and it kind of annoyed me that it was all kind of fenced off. It's called Walls. Walls, a feature of the time. Fences, gates, barriers, blockades, barbed wire. Stop, stay out, guard dogs, armed guards, barbed words, barbed meanings, cautions, crimes, open fire. Fiercely protected heaps of litter loot, concrete cast-offs, genera, viscera, detrita. Safety warning, unstable building, unstable world, but this building is dangerous. This freedom, this recklessness, this itching inescapable irritation of endless nothing wrapped around by walls that want to fall, of choking gas burning past. And freer rats, scurrying cats, flitting bats, all unconstrained, undetained by walls not meant for them but you and I. I must be held back, but why? So greedy hands can sift through rubble sands and hold on to the bounty of the common land. What was ours? What is ours? What's left but walls and concrete and the sight of red flowers? Dead flowers, dried grass and weeds, but seeds still lie, invisible to the eye, but buried and growing and waiting for water, waiting for the daughter of Mother Earth, for womankind to find its mind that's long been hidden from sight, to break down the walls with vines, slow, crushing, sublime. Let them fall, they beg for it. They only pretend to stand tall, but with deep roots. That's it.
Again, that one, yeah. That's a great follow-on from the first one as well, where it's like you can tell like your brain was in that same level of thought then, wasn't it? So it was like running from one night to the next day. So great choice on that again. So yeah, I'm going to say no more. I'm not going to ask you more probing questions on that one. So over to your third piece, man.
So this one I wrote again in the middle of the night. This time a bit more positive. This one kind of I was in a really nice cemetery in Sheffield. I don't know if it's just called Sheffield Cemetery or what, but it's like a very sort of old one with all winding sort of woods and stuff. And I was just kind of sat in amongst some trees there. This nettle sting, it's a blessing, a kiss from God. Feel this sting, this scratching and cracking that makes my heart beat. Probably not alone, others here too, somewhere in the dark, listening too for scratches or cracks, or warming by crackling fire. This rustle kiss needles softly on my face, stroking only as they are. Leaves pouring onto me as scratches and cracks echo and reveal the world around. Tires burn in the background, but don't disrupt the peace inside the green world in these walls. The same wind that blows these leaves blows on me, my hair held by the same hands that hold these leaves. Listen for the sounds of this wind that holds me, this breeze that makes things be, makes leaves bump gently, makes me shiver with glee.
Great images in that one. Particularly like the image of Russell Kiss then. I like the use of the nettles at the beginning of it. So the nettles was like obviously the thing that led you down that path for that piece then, wasn't it? So what made you want to write that piece start off with nettles? Because nettles are a sharp image to begin with anyway, aren't they? And painful because I've sat on them before now. I've regretted it.
Yeah, I suppose I was kind of, it's about that feeling, that sort of real feeling of a sting, you know, that sort of natural real feeling. Like it's not something malicious, it's just kind of putting you in touch with nature kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, but also trying to contradict the kind of idea of a nettle as a nasty thing, but also sort of seeing that there's a sort of beauty in it, I guess.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great piece, indeed. Now, you see, like it's like we've got to get a theme going. Definitely, it feels like a nighttime piece, but yeah, the tone of it is different to the other two pieces now. Brilliant. Okay, number 4.
So this one's a bit more on the kind of science kind of side. I think I don't really remember when I wrote this one, but I think I'm pretty sure it was night again, and I think I remember I was sitting on some grass on a hill or something and looking up into the sky. So it's called A Point on a Membrane. A point on a membrane, a fleck of dust floating on the surface of a bubble, looking up into an abyss, the black expanse of unknown, lying on a hillside, feeling the deep texture of grass and earth below, while above swirls nothing and everything waiting to be pierced. An arrow into the sun splits it open, a rocket to the moon cracks it like an egg, clinging onto this rock, dangling over the infinite ocean.
And I thought it just shows you some pieces sometimes when you got to get going. I expect you to go on a bit longer with that piece then. I think it's good writing sometimes. You wrapped it up really, really quickly and really, really well though, that one, mate. So do you ever find when you write your pieces sometimes, Ray, you're writing, you think to yourself, oh, I finished that quicker than I expected.
Yeah, sometimes I'm not sure if it's finished, and then I kind of think, actually, that's right, that's just it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good choice for that straight away because it shows. It's like I would probably carried it on, but that's me if you've been motor around mouth. So, but no, still excellent, mate. Anyway, listen, mate. Over to you now for the conclusion, okay? The big finale, as I always call it, at a spoken label. Over to you, mate.
So this one, I actually remember the context of this. This one wasn't during the night, and it was after a conversation I had with a friend of mine who's a PhD. He was doing a PhD in chemistry, and he was like creating a new type of electron microscope which could see smaller objects than before. So it had a sort of more precise microscope, basically. And it made me think about that sort of search for knowledge, that human search for knowledge and the kind of limits of it, and, how we're kind of desperate to know more and more. It's called Ink. I hammer my head into the altar anvil, cold prayers, experiments into the black, metal crack, glass snap, acid hiss, star burn our eyes with universal fire. Work, 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 ever wind the clock, ever grind the gears, ever pumping steam, ever work. Knowledge split heads, a code deep, deep in invisible depths. We must know, see more, see all, closer and closer we peer. Ever writing mathematician times, quill scratches endlessly, white ink on black parchment, hurriedly figuring and formulating, to keep up with the crashing, unfurling, crystalline waves that lick at her footsteps, waves that she wrote in motion at her birth, forgotten why and when, but continuing dutifully till ink runs dry, on, but dry it will run. And we, her unexpected conclusion, from A equals A we arose, and now we must know, our burned eyes must see, from unseeably small to unseeably big we must see, knowing there's no end, till the ink pot is empty, long after our dry bones have blown away, turned themselves to ink.
That last image is really good, strong on that one there. So yeah, was it one of those pieces where that last image was really quite a tricky line to write there? Because I would have probably, knowing me, I'd have been backwards and forwards on that one. But was it again? Did that feel like it came quite naturally at the end of that piece there for you?
I think it was. It kind of developed from this idea of the ink, the sort of. I was kind of imagining God, really, that sort of time is like this sort of God that is writing using the sort of laws of physics. It's kind of given the laws of physics, and then it just writes what happens, and we're sort of the result of that. And the ink is kind of like all the matter and energy in the universe, and it kind of how it eventually runs out, as the universe ends.
Yes, that's so nice. Really philosophical. I really enjoyed that, mate. Excellent stuff, mate. So, anyway, folks, on such a downbeat note, should we call it downbeat, but positive, Tom, should we say?
I always, people think they're very dark, but I don't know. I kind of think it's, in a way, it's beautiful, maybe.
You're the sort of person, I like this in you, getting to know you. You see the beauty in the darkness. But other people might say you're downright miserable, like I'm downright miserable. I think you've got a very light sense of humour. That's the best way to put it. So, listen, mate, it's been a pleasure, mate. Anyway, so really enjoyed today. So great to got you on. So hang around. I do need to do a quick word off microphone anyway. But that's it for another session today, guys and girls. So pleasure as always. Thank you, Tom, for coming on today. Really, really enjoyed this, mate.
Thanks a lot.
As Don Callis over at AEW Wrestling says, folks, stay safe and say more importantly, stay damn over. And we'll see you all next.
Spoken, mate.